Oh, it's Bill, the knee pain guru. Today is Friday, August 30th, 2019. Welcome to my channel. Today we're going to talk about knee pain relief and finding the best place to start. We're going to get into that in just a moment. We'll be answering questions in just a little bit. And there's a live chat box over on the side if you'd like to put any questions you have about what you're struggling with your knees, knee pain, doctor's diagnosis, physical therapy, exercise, whatever you're dealing with. Please share that over on the side, as after I'm done with this short presentation, we'll dig into that and we'll explain. We'll work out a strategy for you. Also, if you have questions, if you're watching the replay, this is also going out to my newsletter list for those that have gone to my website and opted into my newsletter. There's a button below here that will help you out after we're done here. Okay. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up, like and subscribe to my channel, and turn on notifications for future videos. That's going to be very helpful for you as I do these twice per week. So now we're going to get into knee pain relief, finding the best place to start. Now, this is huge. It doesn't sound like a whole lot, but it is huge. Knowing where you're at goes a long way. Please don't make the same mistakes that I made. I dislocated my left knee 4 times before I went to the doctor. And this gets into my very first point. Get a diagnosis. Because when I went to the doctor the first time, I had found out that I had dislocated my left knee 4 times at that point. I had partially tore the ligament in my left knee 3 times and completely ripped through it on the 4th time. If I would have gone and known where I was at after the first knee dislocation, I probably could have prevented a lot of pain, a lot of struggle in my life. However, that was my path. That's what I learned. But first and foremost, make sure you get a diagnosis. Go to a doctor. Go to a licensed healthcare professional. Know what you're dealing with. It's going to make a big difference. You want to gather information so you know what you're dealing with. It's like we can't straighten up the living room until we turn on the lights. And that's what I'm proposing. A lot of people either had an injury, something happened, and I know there's this kind of that fear of, oh, I don't want to know what the doctor is going to tell me, or it's something that's been developing for a long period of time, weeks, months, possibly years, and it's like, still there's that place. I don't want to go to the doctor and have them tell me bad news. What I'm sharing with you to know where to start, where to begin in the recovery from knee pain is understanding where you're at. And you need that information. It's crucial to begin that journey, whether you go a conventional medical route, whether you go a completely holistic route, or whether you do an integrated approach between the conventional and the holistic. You're going to need to know what you're dealing with to begin with, to know what you're telling doctors or physical therapists or your alternative healthcare professionals. So that is the first thing you want to do. Even second opinions are very valuable in that case. Getting a diagnosis. Doctors have been known to be wrong. They've been known to make mistakes. They've been known to make incorrect diagnoses. Understand a diagnosis is a professional opinion. It's based on what they see on an X-ray, a CT scan, or an MRI. And if it's one of those things that you're kind of like, I'm not so sure that this doctor really knows what they're talking about, or I don't feel comfortable with this doctor, then get a second opinion. That's going to be really important in terms of as we go into the next piece here. So I want you to pay attention to a couple of things when talking to licensed healthcare professionals, because that's who you're getting a diagnosis from. And just on a side note, you don't want to go on the internet to get a diagnosis from somebody. It's just not a smart move. You want to go to a doctor, make an appointment, and do that. But you want to ask them, whether you're going to a doctor, physical therapist, occupational therapist, whoever it is, ask them, have they had knee pain before? Have they had these surgeries? Have they had injuries like this, especially in their knee? Because that's going to be a good indicator if they really know where you're at, if they really know what you're dealing with. That's going to be a key component in the next piece I'm going to share with you around trusting them. Because here's a psychological component that is difficult to connect, especially when you first have knee pain. When I dislocated my left knee, there was this place where I stopped. I began to lose trust in my knee, like trust that my knee's going to support me, trust that I'm going to be able to stand and walk or twist or move in a certain way, and my leg's going to be there to support me, and I'm not going to end up sprawled out on the ground screaming with my knee clutched towards my chest. There is trust that's lost in the knee. When it hurts, when you're afraid to go upstairs or go downstairs, afraid to move, afraid to run, afraid to jump, whatever you're afraid to do, there is fear that goes on in the knee, and you begin to lose trust over time in the ability of the knee to support you, to support your weight, to be strong enough to help you save your own life or the life of those that you love. Like literally, it gets into like a life or death piece here when you can't trust your knee. So the professional that you're working with has to demonstrate that trust that you're going to have to begin to build back into your knee. And if you don't trust them, you know, I've always heard lead by example, or you want to follow those that you truly believe in. And if you're following someone or you're working with someone to build trust back in your knee and you don't trust them, you're going to have a hard time. You're not going to make it. And that's what a lot of people happen. They get stuck in this loop of not knowing how to trust their knee because they're looking to people that they don't trust themselves. So kind of like you're floundering there. So it's really important, and it's important to get this. This is the beginning. This is the start of your knee pain journey. You have to know where you're at as to what you're dealing with a diagnosis. If you don't like that one, get a second one. And then the third piece is being able to trust the person that you're working with to help you get back to normal again. It's huge. Let's see. Got my notes here. I want to make sure I covered everything. And it's what this is. We get back to, there's like this unconscious, before my knee injury, there was unconsciously, it was like, okay, my knees are always there. They always work. They always have. And all of a sudden they didn't. And we have to build that back. We have to build that belief back in the knees that are going to support us. And we need to surround ourselves with those types of people that are going to be able to support that journey, support that process. So, okay, we got some people on the line here. If you have questions, please enter those in the comments section. And if you're watching the replay, type in your questions in the comment box, and I use them on future videos for subjects for future videos. So you know that. We have a couple of people that have shared some questions here. Marion, she writes, why my patella doesn't move. Marion, think about it. I was talking about the fear. When the body experiences pain, the patella, most likely you didn't wake up one day and the patella didn't move. There was some sort of injury, an accident, a surgery, a trauma, something happened. And then all of a sudden the body tenses up to protect itself from that injury, the accident, the trauma, the surgery, whatever it is. That tension, the fear that the body takes on from that impact of falling on your knee, slipping on the ice, car accident, what ends up happening is as the body tenses up to protect itself, yeah, softball to the knee. The pucker factor went up. The body goes, the pucker factor goes up. You get hit with the softball because you could see it coming. And all of a sudden it's like, the body tenses up. It's a change. What happens is there's a change in the neurology of the knee, of the leg, of the body. And what ends up happening is when that tension pattern happens, it makes it difficult for the knee to bend or extend, the kneecap to move or to move freely, for you to be able to get your heel to your butt, your knee to your chest, whatever that is, because of the tension pattern. Think of it like you're driving in a car and the car swerves and you think you're going to hit. So what do? You jam on the brake. Normal, natural response to the fear. That anticipation is what gets locked in the neurology. And what we need to do is we need to begin to create comfort in the knee. And what this does is it changes the neurology. It changes the signaling from the knee, in the leg, up to the brain, back to the knee, so the knee can let go. And when the knee lets go, what you've done by creating comfort is the knee begins to feel safe, supported, and listened to. And it changes the neurology. When the neurology is changed, the joint relaxes, there's more space. More space means the patella or the kneecap has room to move. We get out of like a diagnosis of what's going on and we look at like your whole being, your whole leg. What happened when the softball was hit and it's traveling towards the knee and it's like, that happens. So yeah, there's information over on my website, The Knee Pain Guru. I'll put the link over there. There's lots of information there. I have products, books, and programs where I work with clients to get them out of pain. So that, Marion, there you go. Okay, Anaxagoras. When you have a radial tear at the free edge of the anterior horn of lateral meniscus, what do you do? Well, when there's something torn, it's important that you want to have a conversation with your doctor. When you have, you want to have that conversation with your doctor because there's two things they can do with a tear. One is they can repair it, which means they sew it back together, depending on the degree of the tear, the length of the tear. If the tear is too long, if the tear is very small, sometimes doctors will leave it alone as it will kind of resolve itself. So that is one situation. The second situation is that the tear can be repaired by sewing it. So they actually sew the meniscus back together, and then ideally that will heal and you won't have an issue anymore. Another situation where they would trim the meniscus. So like you have a hangnail, they would trim, you trim the hangnail, the doctors would trim the meniscus. This way it isn't flapping in the knee anymore. When it's flapping in the knee, there's a tendency for it to get stuck and the knee locks, and then there's pain and there's a lot of stuff in there. So those are three off the top of my head options. Also, tears are in places where they can't really operate on it either. Not all meniscus tears are created equal. You have vertical tears, you have horizontal tears, you have diagonal tears, tears from the front to the back or back to the front or left to right or right to left. A tear can happen in any direction. So it's important to look at the type of tear, the degree of tear, and have that conversation with your doctor to figure out what is your best strategy. So Okay, let's see. Stephanie said, my knee feels locked under the patella when I'm trying to straighten it. I had a meniscus tear and was corrected in July. I injured my knee in April and haven't been able to straighten it since. Okay, my knee feels locked, trying to straighten it. I had a meniscus tear that was corrected in July. Okay, and Stephanie, when you say corrected, what does corrected mean? Does that mean it was, yeah, I honestly don't know what corrected means. You had surgery, they took out the meniscus, like I was explaining, do annex goras. He shaved it. Okay. And it was torn. The doctor shaved it. So that's, for all intents and purposes, the knee was fixed, which means it's mechanically sound. And that's what we're looking at when we rule out something is broken or torn. And that ruling out can be ruled out by a surgery. What ends up happening, Stephanie, is the same thing I was talking about Marion around. It is when she was saying her patella doesn't move because the softball came and hit her kneecap. Got it. Okay. You have a similar, when we look at the body from a neurological perspective, like our nervous system and how it responds to an accident, an injury, surgery, trauma, what ends up happening is there's a neurological pattern that gets set. It's a fear pattern of the body not feeling safe. It's what it is. And okay, Stephanie's saying I couldn't straighten it at all before the surgery, but you can if it's on the bed. Yeah, I'm not really understanding what you're saying there. Got it. You couldn't straighten it before the surgery, most likely because the meniscus was in the way of it straightening. Could you straighten it before the surgery if it was on the bed? Like before or after the surgery on the bed piece? That's what we need to be very specific in our languaging in order to understand exactly what we're dealing with. It's a little bit of a disconnect. What happens, doctors use the support of something under the knee makes it able to straighten. And that is not at all. It was fully bent. Okay, Stephanie, I'm not totally getting what you're saying because we got an electronic thing going on here. And the point of what I'm saying is that the surgery corrected what was mechanically stopping the knee from straightening or bending. That's been repaired. Everything else on the other side of the surgery is a function of the neurology. No, Stephanie, it's okay. That's the world. That's the world we live in. What's really cool about the fact is I'm able to do this now where I couldn't a few years ago because of the technology. So it's a very fortunate thing that we have the technology and we do the best we can based on what we're able to work with. So let me explain. The surgery repaired what would be mechanically impinging the knee from straightening or bending. Done. That's been fixed. The mechanical dysfunction has been fixed. We don't even have to think about before the surgery anymore. All we need to worry about is after the surgery and why your knee isn't straightening. And this comes from the neurological signaling that got embedded in the knee because of the pain that it felt, because of the tear, because of what happened to it. This is the piece that we really need to wrap our brains around because it's a different way of looking at the body. And once we start creating comfort in the knee joint, just like I was saying to Marion, when we create comfort, and I'm not talking about sitting on the couch and propping your knee up and doing RICE therapy, rest, ice, compression, and elevation. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about intentionally creating comfort in the ranges of motion, in the intrinsic ranges of motion in the knee that are holding the tension patterns, preventing the knee from straightening and bending. And once we start changing that neurological signaling, the joint relaxes. When the joint relaxes, it starts to bend easier, and you don't have to get it stronger. Like, it isn't a function of strength. It's a function of relaxation. Huge distinction. Just like if we have our foot on the gas and our foot on the brake, the car doesn't necessarily go faster by jamming on the gas harder. It goes faster just by taking the foot off the brake. This is what I'm talking about in the knee, that when we have this pain, stiffness, discomfort, burning, aching, shooting, whatever you call what's going on in your knee, and we start creating comfort, the joint begins to move easier. It's like everybody's been in that conversation with the person that just isn't listening to what they're saying. They're like, will you please listen to me already? And the more you try to tell them what you know, or they're trying to tell you what they know, it's like conflict, and it escalates and arguments get worse. But the moment one person just is quiet and just listens to what the other person is saying, they don't even have to say anything. They just need to be quiet. What ends up happening in that argument? The person who's trying to get it out finally goes, thank you. You finally listened to what I was saying. And this is the same thing of what's going on with the knee. The knee is going, I need you to listen to me. I need you to hear what I'm saying. And the knee only wants to be listened to, feel safe, supported, and listened to. And we don't do it through pushing through the pain or creating, exercising, or whatever you may have been told is going to get the knee to move. We just need to create comfort. And when we create comfort in the knee joint, the joint relaxes. When the joint relaxes, it moves easier. And what do? We did a lot less, actually. And we got more leverage. We got more movement as a result of just creating comfort. So, Stephanie, does this help? A lot of times it gets a little bit confusing. Right, pushing through it. And this is the medical model. You got to push through the pain. No pain, no gain. Pain is weakness leaving the body. Just do it. And there is a time and place for that. I don't want to be misunderstood around pushing the leg. You have to have strong legs. That's important. The timing of it is not right off the bat. If you exercise too soon and you're creating more pain in the knee isn't able to recover. It isn't able to, you aren't able to sleep, you aren't able to rest because the pain level is so high. We need to reduce the pain level and increase the exercise to the degree that the knee is able to recover after the exercise. So there is a time and place to push. It's just not right off the bat. We have to have the timing correct in this. If there's more questions, I'm going to have to scoot in about 6 minutes. If you have questions, please ask those in the live chat over here. Stephanie, great job. You and Marion both, just understanding it from a different perspective. We have to look at it. We have to flip the equation around. We have to flip the equation around, because if we're doing things that continue to cause the knee to be in more pain, we'll never get out of pain. It just won't. It just doesn't happen, which is why so many people are struggling with knee pain. And there's so many people getting diagnosed with arthritis, and people that wearing the bone, the cartilage down, and they get into a bone-on-bone situation, and then they're lining up for knee replacement surgery. And that's what happens. That's how it builds up over time. And we have to come from a different place. Einstein said, we have to come from a higher level than the level that the problem was created. So the problem was created on a physical level. You have knee pain, tore the meniscus, smacked the kneecap with a softball, whatever is going on. We can't deal with it just on a physical level in order to resolve the issue. We have to come from a higher level in order to be able to get the knee to resolve. We have to use all of our resources that are available. And there's way more than just strengthening. So that's very important. If you have more questions, I just got a few more minutes. I leave here because I have a coaching group that I do twice per week. It's called Knee Club. If you're watching this from my newsletter, which I posted the link up there before, you can go and sign up for my newsletter. This video is going to be going, it went out to my list. And below this, in the newsletter, there's a link to sign up for Knee Club. We meet twice per week in a group coaching call, private Facebook group. And basically what I do is I would say, hey, Stephanie, tell me, what you have going on. You have the difficulty bending and extending. I would give you modules 1, 2, and 40 for your knee. I would also give you modules 22 and 23 for your hips and lower back, because the knee has a huge component. The hips and lower back play a huge role in what's going on with the knee. So you would go ahead and I would say, that's your homework. Stephanie, now you go work on that. And then on the next call, which is going to be Monday in the afternoon, you would say, hey, Bill, this is what I felt. 1 and 2 helped greatly. 40, I didn't notice a thing. 22 and 23 made my leg feel lighter, whatever it is. And then that's how we work. And you tell me what's going on. So, okay, Jill writes, my knees are bone on bone, medial. What can I do other than surgery, or should I just go ahead and have surgery? And this is, Jill, it's a common question I get. Most people, I'm going to really condense this. There's a lot to this subject, bone on bone. It's been going on for a long time, which causes the knees to get dehydrated, which is all a diagnosis of arthritis. Stephanie, no, that's Knee Club, Stephanie. So what ends up happening is we first get diagnosed with arthritis. The joint becomes dehydrated and it begins to wear and causes pain, which causes the joint to squeeze tighter. The tighter it squeezes, the more dehydrated the joint gets, the more it wears and rubs. And that arthritis is the first diagnosis, then it wears and wears and wears and gets bone on bone. And bone on bone is usually when you're having a conversation with the doctor. You're having the conversation with the doctor about having a knee replacement surgery. People don't go to the doctor because they have bone on bone. They don't go to the doctor just to get a diagnosis. They go to the doctor because they either have one of two things, pain or range of motion issues. They can't bend or extend their legs. That's why they go for their knees. So if we begin to create comfort in the knee joint and get the joint to relax. It gets the pressure off of the nerves in the knee that are causing the pain. And when we get the pressure off of the nerves that are causing the pain, what ends up happening is the knee stops hurting so much. I've worked with lots of clients with Bone on Bone that they create comfort in their knee. They have the tools that they need to know how to create comfort in their knee, have strategies. They begin to incorporate in all different perspectives: water, nutrition, breathing, exercise, stretching, mobility, getting the pressure off of the nerves. There's a whole host of different things that can be done to set up the conditions so the body can heal what's going on in the knee, and we create the space in the joint, and then the knees don't hurt. You still may have a bone-on-bone diagnosis if you went to the doctor, but the knees don't hurt. And my clients choose not to go back to the doctor because their knee doesn't hurt, which is the only reason they went to begin with. So, Jill, it's a different perspective. It doesn't negate the fact of what the doctor said. It doesn't negate the diagnosis. But if you're more worried about the diagnosis, then you would want to go down that route. But if you're only concerned about pain or range of motion, then absolutely, I can help you. And that would be Knee Club. And I got a scoop. We're starting in 2 minutes. Private Facebook group. You can go to my website, thekneepainguru.com. There's the product section. We meet in a private Facebook group twice a week, Mondays and Thursdays. I had something going on yesterday, so we switched. And I just coach you. I coach you as long as you're participating, giving feedback, doing the homework. I can get you out of pain. Okay. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you very much. Give the video a thumbs up, like and subscribe to my channel, turn on notifications, share this with all you know that limp, and I will see you on the next video. Have a great day. Bye-bye.